In the fabric of infinite multiverses, there are realms of chaos, dimensions of order, and some caught forever in the absurd theater between. It was in the waking dream of such a cosmic intersection, one where the laws of narrative, power, and philosophy bled into one another. The two impossible forces came to meet, a man who shattered all limits for the sheer inconvenience of boredom, and a being who transcended time, matter, and even purpose itself. Saitama stood on a quiet balcony in Z City, the wind barely rustling his hero cape. His grocery bag dangled lazily from his hand as he stared at the orange-pink glow of the sunset. There were no monsters today, not even a giant centipede or sentient seaweed, just silence and stillness. He blinked slowly. "Bored again," he mumbled, watching a cloud drift overhead. It didn't look like any monsters would show up, not unless someone stitched wings to a skyscraper and threw it at him out of spite. But far beyond the skies he watched, in dimensions unaccounted for by human minds or satire-fueled physics. Something stirred. Dr. Manhattan observed the same Earth, yet not as a man perched on a balcony, but as a presence existing in all its instants. He saw the first atom split, the moon landing, the day Saitama swatted a mosquito with enough force to clear an entire district. He experienced them not as memories, but as coexistent facts. To him, past, present, and future were not lines, but colors on a single canvas. He stood, naked, luminescent blue, on the surface of Mars, contemplating the tremble in the fabric of cause and effect. Something alien was at play, a presence immune to the entropy that governed all things, not by resisting it, but by laughing in its face. "I am watching a story that contradicts causality," he murmured, voice echoing inside the red silence. "Of Mars, a being whose existence mocks progression, stakes, even death itself. Not because he rewrites it, but because he doesn't need to." He saw Saitama, and Saitama saw nothing really. He was heating up leftover sukiyaki. But the meeting was fated, or at least inevitable within the arc of narrative convergence. It began when dimensional scientists of Earth 2571, a universe plagued by its own existential threats, detected anomalies that defied everything. At first, they believed it was a tear in the continuum, a leak from a higher order power, but it wasn't. It was a pulse, a presence so absurdly grounded in simplicity that it disrupted the very complexity of reality. Dr. Manhattan stood before their hyperlattice sensor field, like a god observing ants trying to understand a thunderclap. "It is not entropy. It is parody," he whispered. Intrigued beyond even his quantum ennui, Manhattan allowed himself to intervene, not to correct nor to annihilate, but to understand, and perhaps to contain. Meanwhile, portals tore through skies in Saitama's. A world, not flashy or dramatic, more like silent whispers in space. Scientists collapsed trying to describe the readings. Time slowed. The laws of physics dimmed like an old light bulb, and yet Saitama continued to eat his noodles. When the skies turned glassy and a blue figure walked down through space itself like it were shallow water, only then did Saitama look up from his apartment window. Another weirdo, he muttered, getting up. He cracked his neck, tossed his bowl in the sink, and leapt casually into the sky. They met on a vast expanse of collapsed quantum foam, a plane between realities where metaphysics were little more than suggestions, a place where gods debated and paradoxes had lunch. Saitama landed with a soft thud, cape flapping behind him. Dr. Manhattan stood 20 feet away, hovering inches above the nothingness. "So," Saitama said, expression blank, "you gonna try to destroy the Earth, or are you just here to chat?" Dr. Manhattan regarded him with piercing calm. "Neither. I am here because your existence destabilizes fundamental constants. You defy entropy, escalation, logic, meaning. Saitama blinked. Yeah, well, you talk weird. Manhattan's form flickered momentarily. 10 versions of himself appearing and collapsing into one, displaying his non-linear existence. You are not bound by the escalation of conflict. You end battles in a single act. This defies the purpose of struggle. Saitama frowned. I just got strong. Too strong, maybe. Doesn't mean I'm some kind of threat. I just punch stuff. That is the problem, Manhattan replied. You are the conclusion to all things. You are an ending without effort, a punchline without setup, a result without process. That is dangerous. Saitama stepped forward slightly. Are you trying to pick a fight? I should warn you, I don't really hold back anymore. Everyone just ends up disappointing. Manhattan nodded slowly. I do not seek violence, but violence may be necessary, not because you threaten lives, but because you threaten structure. You erase consequence. That is a form of entropy far more insidious than even I. A brief pause hung between them. In it swirled all the unspoken weight of their philosophies, Saitama, the embodiment of absurdist finality, and Manhattan, the eternal observer, the god who sees meaning dissolve across infinite timelines. Then, Manhattan continued, voice softer now, but heavier with intent. You are not evil, Saitama, but you represent a metaphysical blind spot. You do not grow, you do not change. You are an unstoppable still point in a world that must move. You are perfect stasis, hidden inside the illusion of dynamism. That threatens far more than any villain. Saitama looked at him with his usual tired eyes. Look, I didn't ask to be this strong. I'm just a guy who wanted to be a hero. You have become something else, Manhattan replied. A silence, not hostile, but heavy. Above them, the sky bled ideas. Narratives crashed and reformed. In this place, battle was not spectacle. It was dialogue. It was thesis versus antithesis. Saitama cracked his knuckles. So, is this the part where we fight? Manhattan nodded. Yes, but not for victory, for truth. Saitama shrugged. All right, just don't blame me if you go flying. The two stood across from each other, surrounded by a collapsing, multiversal framework held together by unresolved paradox. On one side stood the man who could destroy entire timelines with a thought. On the other, the man who trivialized destruction with a single punch. But this was not merely a battle of fists. It was the clash of finality against understanding, of satire against philosophy, of power without effort against omniscience with purpose. And in that quiet moment before the impact, time held its breath. The moment their eyes met in that timeless dimension, reality did not ripple. It paused. Everything that had weight, mass, thought, motion, time, became hesitant, unsure if it should obey the usual rules or bend to the presence of two beings who had already outgrown them. Saitama stood with both hands casually in his pockets, his expression blank but not indifferent. Opposite him, Dr. Manhattan stood composed and radiant, his presence collapsing possibilities into probabilities, probabilities into absolutes. He did not merely exist, he was existence, experiencing all that would happen and yet still choosing to walk the path leading to it. His blue form shimmered as if his body were an illusion, a placeholder for something more precise and cruelly rational. Then time flowed. Saitama launched forward first, not with reckless speed, but with intent. Not even a blur, but a step. Beyond speed, the impact of his initial dash fractured the theoretical plane beneath them into cascading equations, splitting space into math and concept. He aimed a punch directly at Manhattan's chest, no flourish, just raw, simple, impossible strength. The blow connected and passed through. Manhattan had already diffused his form into subatomic probability states, scattering himself through a dozen moments at once. Saitama's fist tore through the illusion of presence, but not the presence itself. Manhattan was behind him now, before him a moment later, and beside him before Saitama could blink, not through speed, but by choosing to exist where he wished. Saitama spun with another punch, faster, wider, designed to destroy not an enemy, but the space around the enemy. The air collapsed into sonic implosion. Dimensions folded in the wake of his movement, slicing nearby probabilities in half like sheets of brittle glass. Manhattan's body atomized, ripped into fundamental particles, and reassembled mid-air unbothered. "I exist at all moments," he said calmly. "Your strength is immense. It erases things with absurd efficiency, but you are a creature of now." "I'm not." Saitama frowned, but only slightly. "So you're gonna teleport around until I get bored? That's your plan?" "No," Manhattan answered, raising a hand. The universe blinked. Saitama felt something he had never felt before. Nothing. No wind, no gravity, no pull of time. He looked around and saw nothing but white. No floor, no ceiling, not even the concept of up or down. "This is a thought space," Manhattan's voice echoed around him. "I have suspended you between nanoseconds. Here we will talk." Saitama blinked. "Couldn't we just punch it out like normal people?" "No, because what you represent cannot be countered with force. You must understand what you are." Saitama crossed his arms, annoyed. "Fine, let's hear it then." Dr. Manhattan's form appeared before him, a translucent silhouette. "You are a product of narrative distillation, a satire of escalation, a construct born to end all fights instantly. But power without evolution is stagnation. You are power without a past, victory without suffering, a symbol that trivializes conflict and growth alike." Saitama looked away. "I never asked for this. I just trained. Every day. A lot." "You did, but your reality responded not with proportional gain, but absurd reward. You exist not as a warrior, but as an endpoint. Your strength is not earned, it's imposed. You are not a journey, you are a period at the end of a sentence." Saitama's fists clenched. "I still try, I still fight, I show up. Isn't that enough?" "No," Manhattan said, his tone not cruel but impossibly even. "Not when your presence unravels the value of the effort around you. You do not defeat evil, you delete it. That is not justice, it is detachment." "You're saying I'm the problem?" "I'm saying you are the symptom. You are what happens when narrative sacrifices process for outcome. You make all struggle meaningless by being its automatic conclusion." The silence that followed wasn't from lack of sound, but from the crushing weight of realization. And, for a rare instant, Saitama didn't feel bored. He felt seen, misunderstood perhaps his entire life. His emptiness wasn't just boredom, it was disconnection. There was nothing for him to overcome anymore, because he was never meant to. "I never wanted to be that," he muttered, voice nearly human again, nearly broken. "But you are," Manhattan said, "and the multiverse is buckling beneath your conceptual weight." Then Manhattan raised both hands, and the white void burned away. They were back in the battlefield of collapsing realities, but now Manhattan acted not as a man observing, but as a force executing judgment. His body grew larger, brighter, fracturing into radiant versions of himself across infinite universes. Dozens of Manhattans stepping out of alternate timelines, converging like an unstoppable tide. Saitama didn't hesitate. He struck again. The punch shattered everything. Time cracked in 4 directions. Manhattan's forms were obliterated in sequence, one after another, their energy scattered into entropy dust. But still he came. Another form appeared, then another, then 1,000 more. He was not regenerating, he was manifesting from every possible point in causality. Saitama, for the first time, couldn't keep up. His fists moved, his power grew. He struck again and again, but it was like punching the concept of recursion itself. Manhattan wasn't fighting to win physically. He was anchoring meaning back into a system that had lost it. Then Manhattan stopped multiplying. Instead, he raised a finger, and all versions of himself collapsed into one radiant form. With a gesture, he rewrote the rules of the space they fought in. Saitama found himself bound, not by force, but by context. His strength was there, but it no longer mattered. The moment was frozen. His power was translated into metaphor, and metaphor into nothing. You are invincible, Saitama, but you are not inevitable. You are finality. I am continuity. Saitama roared, muscles flaring. His aura cracked galaxies. He shattered the stasis around him and moved with a punch that could vaporize gods. It hit Manhattan square in the face, and yet Manhattan remained. Because in that moment, Saitama's punch did not matter. It had force, it had energy, but it lacked narrative weight. Manhattan did not resist it with muscle. He resisted it with meaning. He looked into Saitama's eyes. You cannot defeat what does not resolve. I do not end. I exist. And with a thought, Manhattan did something Saitama could not undo. He removed the idea of victory. Saitama's fist dropped. Not from exhaustion, but from futility. The multiverse, once cracking under the absurd tension of Saitama's presence, began to stabilize. Reality had not been won. It had been anchored. Through Manhattan's will, the cosmos reclaimed progression, consequence, and purpose. Saitama stared at him, eyes wide. So, that's it? You're not dead, Manhattan said gently. You're not broken, but you're no longer central. Saitama looked at his own hand. I've never lost before. No, Manhattan said. Because your world never allowed you to. The fight ended not with a death, nor with a winner gloating over a fallen opponent. It ended with understanding. Saitama, a man built to finish all things, had met the one being who could not be finished. Not because he was stronger, but because he was beyond finality. And in that, Dr. Manhattan stood victorious, not with violence, but with truth.